Wow. Woo, boy. Ooh. Blues and greens and grays and yellows. Oh, look at this color green. Oh, wow. And more pinks. Oh, look at these browns. Wow. Hi, I'm Melanie, and you're watching Yarn Journeys. I am an avid knitter, a spinner, and a sometimes sewist. I live in Arlington, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. I'd like to issue a warm welcome to all my returning viewers, and if you are new here, I am so glad you found the channel. I hope you enjoy the show. So here's what's up for today. As you may have gathered from the thumbnail, we'll be talking Rowan Kid Silk Haze. I am the lucky winner of 81 shades of Rowan Kid Silk Haze from the selfie, I guess, contest or raffle. I don't know what to call it, but I posted a selfie of myself at Vogue Knitting Live, of myself in front of the Rowan Kid Silk Haze wall that they had there, and put the right hashtag on it and on Instagram. And last week I found out that I was the lucky prize winner. And then a few days later, 3 boxes showed up and with tons and tons of yarn. So I am excited to share all about that with you. Then we'll do a little celebration of spring here in the Washington, D.C. area. And then, of course, we'll do some show and tell of finished objects and works in progress. And if you stay tuned towards the end, I'll even get back to what I've been working on in my spinning. So grab your knitting or project or whatever you're working on, a cup of tea or something cozy, and let's get into it. All right, so Rowan Kid Silk Haze. So this is just one of the boxes. I can't really fit it all in there, but you can see that it's, this is a lot of yarn. So I have 2 more boxes that are about the same exact size. Now that is so cool. So Rowan Kid Silk Haze, it's the OG mohair silk combo. This, of course, is their 20th anniversary of the yarn base, and some basic data about it. It is per ball or per skein, 25 grams. It's lace weight. It is 70% mohair, 30% silk. So I gravitated to one of my favorite colors, which is, of course, a nice hot pink. So I just feel that the creativity that all this yarn gives me is just so exciting, so amazing. And I've come up with some ideas about what I might do with this yarn. But of course, I'd like to get your thoughts as well. Once I heard that I was going to be receiving all of this wonderful mohair silk goodness, I went on Ravelry and started researching potential projects. And if you want to know what I've been looking at, I've actually created a Ravelry bundle of favorites called Rowan Kid Silk Haze. I'll put a link to it in the description box if you'd like to get more information about each pattern. And there's even some in there that I'm not going to be mentioning today. So You know, there are a few constraints I have to think about. So, while 81 balls, I think it's like 16,000 meters, almost 15,000 yards. I mean, that is a lot of mohair silk lace. However, you know, let's say I decide, ooh, this lavender color is so beautiful, and it is really beautiful. But I can't make a whole sweater with just one skein, and if I was to order a whole bunch more, there's no guarantee it would all be in the same dye lot. So if I want to make a larger than one skein wonder project, I'm going to be talking about doing some sort of color work or fading or what have you so that I can use more than one skein. All right, so here's what I've been thinking about, and I am going to pull something out of my new yarn storage case here. It's all the way in the back. Alrighty, so I have here something that's been in my stash almost 20, more than 25 years perhaps. This is about 2,700 yards on a cone of apricot jagger spun wool fingering. So one thought is to do some sort of a sweater where I do a marled fade with this lovely apricot. So there's, you know, I can imagine doing something with this guy here, maybe this guy and this guy, and it could be like a whole bunch of peachy pink goodness in kind of a fade. So some sweaters that come to mind are from Petite Knits, of course, who is the, you know, the main designer out there who has been pushing this fingering plus mohair trend that doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. So, for example, I think the novice cardigan, or I am not sure how to say this, but the Agnete cardigan or Agnete cardigan. I'm really feeling a cardigan coming on here. So I think that would be really pretty using this fingering and even this beautiful orangey color. I keep pulling in, I'm like, ooh, like, well, no, but like, I mean, you know, there's just so many. I could, okay, I'm going to put the yarn down now. You see where I'm going. So definitely, I think that there is some sort of fingering mohair combination garment on the way. What else? And what was very nice was that a few months ago, Modern Daily Knitting put out a blog post about Rowan Kid Silk Haze's 20th anniversary, and they suggested some patterns where I got a few ideas. So that includes Nancy Marchant's Willow Scarf, which is a two-color brioche, lacy, delicate affair. I think that I would have to use two different color combinations. So I could imagine using like a gray and an orange and maybe gray and a hot pink. That could be interesting. I don't know. And the Modern Daily Knitting folks also recommended the Horai scarf by Hiroku Fikatsu. I had to consult my notes on that one. And this is beautiful, delicate lace. And I think that, you know, I think that would look really nice, perhaps in just a very subtle fade with sort of grays or you know, some of these grays, while they're definitely different colors, they could all play nicely together somehow. Then there is also Hohi Locatelli's gossamer, which is a convertible garment that's part scarf, part vest. It's got buttons. That could be interesting, particularly if I make it with some sort of color blocks. But I was thinking, this is Rowan, right? So I had best be looking at an OG hardcore Rowan designer. And with all these colors, who better to think of than Kaif Fassett? You know, he is Rowan's color man, and I got all the colors. So here's a few Kaif Fassett projects that I have been looking at on Ravelry. So there is an ombre stripe shawl, and I can do the ombre for sure. The unwind wrap for some more stripy goodness. And then there's the earth stripe wrap for something that's more earth tones. But you know, I love color, particularly bright colors. You might be able to tell from the little touches of red I have all over the place. So I don't know. I feel like this will give me permission to play. And then, well, this is quite the project. There is this Sophia wrap that Kay Fassett designed. Now, it is made with Kid Silk Aura, which is a discontinued yarn by Rowan. But you know, I could hold two strands together and make these squares work. And you know, that's a lot of intarsia, which I have done a little of, but I have a feeling that after doing some intarsia with mohair in lots of different colors, I will have gotten that intarsia thing down. So I that could be really fun. But I mean, this is just like, you know, I feel like a little kid when you get the 64 color crayon box where you have all the colors and it's just, you just want to keep playing. I mean, just look at this sort of rich, russet, almost auburn brown, and then look how that combines with this kind of vermilion-y red. And then if you can throw a pop of hot orange in there, well, that's fall colors right there. And I am just such a sucker for grays and pinks. And then if you add a little purple in there, whew, so cool. And then, haha, I got a black. I got a black, which is great because nothing, you know, this is very versatile. I know this is a very 80s combination. Anyway, okay. I am going to put the Rowan Kid Silk Haze away because I could play with it all day. So, what do you think? Are there any good ideas for what I could do with this yarn that I've overlooked? Any good mohair, silk related projects that come to mind? I mean, I haven't even got into the Hohi Locatelli playbook. I mean, I mentioned the gossamer, but there's also the Elton and a lace and fade boxy. There's a lot of possibilities there too. One thing I won't be making is another Andrea Mowry Birds of a Feather shawl because, well, I'm wearing mine and I have now knit enough mohair silk lace garter stitch to last a lifetime. I love this shawl. but lots of garter stitch and mohair lace. I think that's an only one-time thing. Ooh, is that a provocative take? Don't know. All right, let's put this away, shall we? So, spring has sprung. I am filming this on March 27th, so we're almost completed our first week of spring here in the DC area. The cherry blossoms are out, and the daffodils have bloomed. I was so delighted by the daffodils in my front yard that I had just to cut some and share some with you. And as you can see, there's a new backdrop around here. I've got this sort of yarn wall behind me, which is awesome. The craft space isn't. I've made a lot of movement in here. It's not quite ready to share in a big way, but I look forward to showing it to you in a future episode. So stay tuned. But for now, let's go outside and see a little bit of springtime in Washington, D.C. This time of year is a lovely time to be a tourist in my hometown. Dawn is a great time to go down to the cherry blossoms because the crowds don't usually get there so early. Sunrise makes a great backdrop to rowers getting their training in on the Potomac. And even a beaver was getting in on the fun with the dawn swim. While not as famous as the cherry blossoms, the big patches of daffodils by the GW Parkway also are a beautiful sign of spring in DC. If you are enjoying the video, please do be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really will help find people like yourself who might enjoy this kind of content find the channel. Thank you. All right, and now it is time for some show and tell, and I have got some finished objects to share. So I participated in the Woolly Thistles color work knit along. I mentioned that I was going to do that in my last video, and I made these Swedish Rococo mittens by Kajsa Lindquist. I got the pattern from a 1948 pattern booklet called Scandinavian Snow Sets. And the wool is the Jamieson and Smith's 2-ply jumper weight. And this was a lot of fun color work right here. I'll put them on to model. Really happy with how they turned out. You know, and it was kind of fun working with the pattern that was, you know, it kind of left a lot up to the knitter in terms of interpretation or just sort of like how you work things. They, you know, not surprisingly, you know, 75 years ago, they wrote patterns a little differently, but I will treasure these mittens. I will say they're not that warm. The 2-ply jumper weight, it does bloom and so forth, but on a really cold day, I think I would wear liners underneath the mittens if I really needed something to keep my hands warm. But you know, there's I just think they are so pretty. I love the colors. It was my first time working with Jamieson and Smith, and I am thrilled to add this yarn to my collection of color work stash. Now, my next finished object is my plus shawl. This is a design by Olga Buraya-Kefelian, or also known as Olgajazzy. And I am so happy with how this turned out. I'm going to be showing some pictures that my husband took of me with the shawl. I have to say it's really nice and convenient to have someone who enjoys photography in the family. So the yarn is Yarn Heroes Merge Sport in the shades Horny Toad and Railway. And it's sport weight. I have to admit that I wasn't quite aware of how much knitting this was going to be. This took me a while. I mean, knitting steadily on it. I'm not the slowest knitter, but I'm not the fastest knitter either. But I am so happy with the result. It is so soft and warm, and it's just the color shifting came out really well. I did end up losing yarn chicken with this. I ran out of the contrast colorway, but luckily Buku Yarns in LA had one skein of the railway colorway. And I ordered that thing so I could finish the shawl because Yarn Hero was out of it. But so that is my big finished object so far this year. And now on to works in progress. You may remember that one of my big goals for the year was to get proficient at brioche. So I am right on that. My big project for that is the Earth and Air by James Watts, for which I have the yarn. I got it at Magpie Fibers flagship last summer. But before I tackle that very special project, I really want to practice my brioche. So I am making a two-color brioche hat. So this is the Helix hat by Jonathan Tallow. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and I am using some leftover yarn from my night shift shawl, that Andrea Mowry pattern. So this is Julie Asselin Lezu DK, which is a merino silk blend. And you know, there are a couple mistakes in here, but they only show on the other side. But I think I'm getting the hang of brioche, and it's a lot of fun, and it's not as hard as I thought it was going to be. So stay tuned and see how this ends up. And a major work in progress is the Gib II sweater that I am making for my husband. This is an Andrea Mowry pattern. No surprise there, because I am a fan. And it is a raglan. And I have one more set of raglan decreases to go. I am knitting this in Hudson and West's Forge in the shade called Lake. I am loving this yarn. It is so squishy and soft, and the texture is just so inviting. So the moments of truth are going to start coming soon, because once I get past separating for the sleeves, we'll get a sense for how the shape of it is coming up. I am knitting this on my Leica wooden interchangeable needles. I have found that I as I have mentioned a number of times, I am a loose knitter. And so, particularly with this kind of worsted weight, soft yarn, it just flies through the needles and somehow I end up knitting big. And I found through swatching that the wooden needles do help with slowing down how fast that yarn slides, and I'm able to keep gauge a little better. And my husband, for whom I am knitting this sweater, bought me this lovely set of interchangeable needles from Leica, or Leica, Leica? How do I say that? If you know, can you please tell me? As a gift these past holidays. So I was super excited to have these to swatch with. And I did swatch. I did two swatches. I was a good girl. I swatched in the round, and as you can tell from the fringe, because I snipped it and I blocked and so forth. And I was able to get stitch gauge. I'm knitting one size smaller than the recommended needle size. I wasn't able to get row gauge, but you know, at least with rows, you can play with the length. The gauge is 20 by 32, and that's quite a big difference between stitch and row gauge in the pattern. So in any case, as I said, once I separate for the sleeves, I am going to be checking my gauge, doing some measuring, and seeing how I end up. I know from my swatches that the row gauge changes quite a bit after blocking. The stitch gauge does a little bit too, but not as much as the row gauge. So that is something I will need to keep in mind. So that is my Gib II, which is coming along nicely. I also have another acquisition to share with you. I have these new stitch markers that I got. They are these flower stitch markers by All Stitch Studio, and I'm a sucker for pink and shades that change. And what I like about them is that, this is sort of the green set, is that you can choose different colors based on where you are in your raglan, for example. So I'm using them on the Gib for sure. And I just think they're adorable, and because they're metal coated with some kind of paint or enamel, they have a little bit more weight than those little rubber circle things that just end up being all over the house and in my pants pockets. And so I tend to keep a little bit better track of where these are. But I just thought these were adorable, and I am really glad that I have them. Spinning. There is an explosion of spinning interest, at least that I have been seeing in the YouTube knitting world, and I am finding that to be a heck of a whole lot of fun. I think a lot of it is driven by Taji of Stitches and Starlight, but I've also noticed that Taylor of Wool Needles Hands recently bought a spinning wheel and is getting into it. Casey on Young Folk Knits is all about the spinning, and Kristen from Vine is also doing some spinning and bringing out her spindles and spinning wheel and so forth. So I find that even more encouraging to get into it. My focus really has been on getting my skills more up to snuff. Or at least by up to snuff, I mean, feeling more confident that I can spin the wool that I am going for, so that I have the techniques and the consistency so that my end product is more like what I want to spin. You can see the edge of my ladybug just there. So here's what I've been working on. Well, first of all, I really wanted to understand the woolen technique of long draw. Last fall at the Shenandoah Valley Fiber Festival, I purchased a pair of hand-dyed Rambouillet braids by Green Goat Ranch. They called them applying pair, and it's combed top, but the sensation was that I was able to do a supported long draw with this Rambouillet. I mean, Rambouillet has high crimp, and it is just so elastic. It is not really consistent, but heck yeah, I'd knit with this. And it's really purple. So if I hadn't mentioned it already, the colorway is called Witcher, after the TV show. So I now feel confident that I can do a long draw, a supported long draw at least. So there's that. And when I was in Vancouver Island, I got a sampler of Bambino from Chaotic Fibers at the Cowichan Valley Fiber Festival. Bambino is a combination of merino and bamboo top, hand dyed. Pardon the crinkling. I can pull this. You can see this coming off my wheel. It's what I'm working on right now. But it is vertically striped. So my goal with this fiber is to learn to spin thin on one of my faster whirls. Sorry about the crinkling. So I've just been working, I think there were 8 colors, so I've just been working my way through the colors. I don't know what I'm going to make with this yarn. That's really not my focus right now. I just kind of want to spin and spin some more and then spin again. But so far, here's what I've been making. So this is 4 different sample skeins of that Bambino. So this one's kind of more of a blushy lavender. This one's got more of an earthy, violet tea, plummy look to it. I got some greens right here, kind of more olive. And then this is just some straight up sky blue. I can imagine using all of these skeins as they come, perhaps in some sort of summer weight, t-shirt with a little bit of color work in it. I am going for fingering, and I think I'm achieving it. And they feel the yarn feels pretty consistent. I'm now feeling more comfortable with treadling, that short forward draft, working with a higher twist, higher, a faster moving spinning wheel, and all the stuff that felt so scary when I first started. Now, The thing that I am so excited for is that I successfully signed up for 2 spinning classes associated with Maryland Sheep and Wool, which is happening the first weekend in May, although the spinning classes are a few days before that. And um, I'm really excited to get some in-person spinning instruction. So more on that to come in a future episode. So that's all I've got for today's episode of Yarn Journeys. Uh, I do hope that you enjoyed spending time with me today. If you enjoyed the episode, once again, please don't forget to hit that like button and do subscribe so you don't miss another episode of Yarn Journeys. Also, don't forget to comment if you've got any thoughts about what I should be doing with that Rowan Kid Silk Haze. Any ideas are welcome. And also, if you've got any tips on working with mohair, which is not like any other yarn, those are welcome as well. I'm sure other viewers might be interested in what you have to say. So thanks so much for watching, and please do stay tuned for more episodes of Yarn Journeys.